Thank you. We do record everything too, so be polite with whatever you say here tonight, okay? Foul language will not be tolerated. Okay. We're gonna take a break about halfway through, and then we'll open it up for anybody who would like to tell a story. And I'm looking around, a lot of people thinking, well, I don't have a story. Stacy always says, I don't have a story, but we know that each of you has a story that you'd like to tell. So we welcome you to do that. And afterwards, when we break, we go across the street to the tap house for some pizza, which we've already ordered up. So if you want to join us over there, it's great. Donations are always appreciated, or if you'd like to join the guild and you haven't done so already, you can also do that tonight, or you can also go onto our website, southsoundstory.org, and there's a little button on there to join up. And that's about it. So we're starting off with a opening teller, and then will be followed by a feature teller who hopefully will show up tonight. Otherwise, we're going to select one of you as a feature teller. So our opening teller tonight is Regina King. Regina is great because she grew up in a part of this country that most of us are not really acquainted with, called Brooklyn, back in New York City. And that place alone has a lot of stories, and I think she's going to tell us something tonight about curbside pickup, whatever in the world that means. So Regina, would you like to step in here and tell a story, please? Thank you.
Thank you. It's work bread. Is it good? Perfect. Thanks for having me tonight. You know, I never thought that I would ever be sharing the story that connected the New York City curbside pickup with one of the most important days of my life. It was back when I was living in the Southwest on the Navajo Indian Reservation. I was young, broke, and in love. My sweetie and I were getting ready to prepare our wedding up in Durango, Colorado. And we were working really hard at making it both very organized and affordable. And because of the affordability piece, my buddy gave me an article that talked all about restoring wedding dresses. So at a lesser cost, if I could find a used wedding dress and restore it, I would have the day of my dreams. My loved one is incredibly analytical. So as I was reading the article to him and getting more and more excited about it, he was shooting out questions. Does Marlene have a dress? No, that was her grandma's, not available. Does your sister Pat have a dress? No, she was pretty pregnant and a very different size than me. And he's thinking and thinking, and then he looks over and he says, hey, is there any chance that your mom might still have her wedding dress? And I said, wow, that's a really sensitive topic. I said, and I wouldn't know, but I'm game. I'll ask. I'll give her a call and I'll ask her. So I called my mom up in Brooklyn, New York, and we're chit-chatting and catching up and making sure, oh, how's the wedding going? How's everything in Brooklyn? How's the weather? Those types of things. And then I say, hey, Mom, Jim and I have a question for you. Is there any chance that you might still have your wedding dress? There was dead silence. Mom, are you okay? Are you still there? Mom, I'm really sorry. I know it's a tough question, but you understand, you know how we are. No stone left unturned. We had to ask. And I could hear her breathing in, catching her breath. And she said, Regina, just before the phone rang, I was outside at the curbside and I placed the dress for curbside pickup tomorrow morning. I said, oh, I said, well, being the daughter that I am, I had to ask. So I said, well, Mom, do you think you could go outside there and get it and mail it out to Jim and I, and we'll have a look at it? And she said, I don't know if I could do that. Said, okay, no problem, no problem. But give it some thought. She said, okay. We hang up the phone and we're on good terms, nothing tense or anything. And about a week later, I go to the post box to pick up my mail. And I have a little yellow tag that tells me that there's a package. And I'm thinking, could it be? Let's go see. When I hand the man my ticket, he's all excited for me. You got a package, you got a package, you got a package. And I'm like, okay, okay. And he runs back to get it. And he comes back and he's carrying this big cardboard box. And he takes it and slides it across the counter for me. And I'm tipping up and I'm looking down and I could see, it's from my mom. I'm really nervous, but I'm also really excited too. Thinking, what is it gonna look like? So I take the box and I rush on home and I put it down and I get out my Swiss Army knife and I start to cut because my mom, she could package a box in the mail with so much tape. It was unbelievable. I'm cutting it up and I flip it open and I reach inside and I grab. And I see, what? Here I am holding a heavyweight industrial-sized New York City garbage bag. Complete. It's all dusty and it's complete with those heavyweight yellow teeth pull tabs that was so tight so no air could get in the bag. Okay, so I put it down, rip it open, and I take it out, pull up the dress, and I'm like, ugh. It was all yellow and grayish looking and droopy, and the beads on it were loose, and the lace work was all crumpled up, and it just looked sad. So I took the dress and thought, oh, what a bummer. Back in the bag, back in the box, and put it away. About a week later, my sweetie and I are going to the big city. We're going to Albuquerque. We're going to be making lots of wedding plans that day. So I reluctantly agree to put the box in the back of the trunk and take it with us in the event that we might find someone. In Albuquerque, the first thing we do is we go and we get a Yellow Pages. You folks all remember the Yellow Pages, right? Yeah. That's what you needed to find anyone you needed was in the Yellow Pages. So in the Yellow Pages, we were looking up anyone that would profess that they were a genius restoring old wedding dresses. And we actually found one name that wasn't far from where we were. We drive on over and we're excited, but wondering like, who could it happen? And we come to this strip mall and it had all these little suites in it. And as we got out of the car, we see the sign, Mr. Bombay's Cleaning Services. We go inside, and as we went inside, as with all good dry cleaners, you're announced with that sound. And as we're being announced, this gentleman, this stout-looking gentleman, is coming out to us. And he's got this beautiful round head and face. And he's dark-skinned, an Indian man. Indian as in India, not Indian as in indigenous. And he's got really thick glasses on, these black glasses. And he walks out and he says, hello, my name is Mr. Bombay. How may I help you? And we say to him, Mr. Bombay, I am Regina, this is Jim. we are interested in perhaps getting your services to restore an old wedding dress. And he is full of questions about the possibility of the dress. And then he says, what is the dress? I say, well, it's outside. Please go get it. And I run outside and I bring the dress in. Now, when I'm bringing the dress in and the door opens again, Mr. Bombay is really confused because I'm carrying an industrialized, heavyweight New York City garbage bag. And he's confused. And I said, oh, don't worry. And I open it up and I pull the dress out. And as I'm doing this, I'm very apprehensive about what his response is going to be to this dress. So as I'm picking it up to show him, I'm looking away because I'm not sure what's going to happen. And I hear this, and I look over. There was Mr. Bombay. His face was glowing with delight, and he was reaching for the dress, and he was touching it, and he was speaking rapidly, and he said to us, it is beautiful. We said, wow, like couldn't believe he saw this as beautiful. And he said, how did she keep it so well? And I indicate, oh, the garbage bag kind of thing, closet, the floor, that kind of a thing. And he is firing questions up at us until he gets to the point where he says, does it fit? So well, I don't know. I haven't tried it on. And he said, please, and shows me the way. I put on the dress. And as I'm walking out, I'm feeling kind of like, wow, this is really interesting. I'm not much of a fashionista. So I'm not really sure about my relationship with clothes and putting on fancy things. And it was so old. As I walked out, I'm thinking, hey, this feels kind of sexy. And then Mr. Bombay, he looks and he goes, oh, it's perfect. We will not touch a thing. Are you sure it fits? He said, yes. And he showed me the indication of how you would know a dress like that fits. So I go to the back and I take the dress off. And while I'm doing this, my loved one is speaking to Mr. Bombay about the science of what he's going to do to this dress to restore it possibly. And I catch up with the two of them, and it sounds like this is going to cost a lot of money. And like I said, we were trying to be affordable, and I was pretty broke. So I say to Mr. Bombay, Mr. Bombay, it sounds like you know what you're doing and talking about, but how much does this cost? Is something like this going to cost? And without missing a beat, Mr. Bombay said, $100. He said, with condition. And it's with conditions. Oh, that must be the catch. And then he shared, he said, you will pay me $50 today with a guarantee to agree. It might not work. If it works, you pay me $50 upon pickup. And then you promise I get a picture of you in the dress on the big day. Wow. We couldn't believe our luck. So we left and we agreed to have a plan B because who knew what would happen? Well, wouldn't you know that 4 months later, my loved one walked into Mr. Bombay's cleaning services and exchanged his $50 for a beautiful restored wedding dress. And Mr. Bombay was thrilled that he would receive pictures of me on my wedding day. And on the big day, when I walked down the aisle with my brother in that dress, my mother shared with me later in the day about what happened when she got off the phone that night. She said, your brother shared with me that out of all 6 girls, if any of them will be able to restore that dress and wear it on their wedding day, it's going to be Regina. She said, and Regina, I can't believe it. He was right. It was beautiful. Thank you. And then Mr. Bombay was equally thrilled because he received the pictures of me on that day in that very wedding dress that he touched so deeply. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. Well,
That's.
most stories always have a follow-on question. Have a follow-on question, so there's no picture, right?
I do have pictures, but I didn't bring them with me.
Okay, next time.
Okay,
So I do have a question. You said there were 6 girls in the
that
family?
is correct.
Did anybody else ever wear that dress?
No.
No, you were the youngest, probably.
I was the fifth and the sixth.
Okay, so you're of course now the favorite daughter, right? So,
We all
well, well, thank you very much for that personal story. It was very good. And I think what we're going to do now is, John, are you stepping out the door for a reason there? Well, we'll get John in here to tell the story, okay? Let me grab John real quick. You still haven't dressed?
No. I think it would be returned to my.
Here he is.
Sorry about that.
Here's John to tell the story. I don't know if it's going to be about the Star Hill Gang or some other event. Star Hill Gang. Okay, let's hear what's going on in Star Hill Gang.
Good evening. I'm excited. I got a story about little Johnny, but he's not that little. He's 10 years old now. He's gonna give the finger to nobody in particular tonight. Now, I was washing my brother's car. I just got done and he comes running down the stairs beside our house, taking 2 steps at a time. Wow, he was cool. Hey, Ludnut, that was my brother's name. Would you give me a ride in that jalopy? He stopped in midair and looked at me. You call that a jalopy one more time, you'll be walking the rest of your life. And I might cut that short too. Oh, but you always promise me, and I just watch your car and I don't go anywhere. Okay, we'll ride around town one time, but you're not wearing those clothes. You go change your clothes. Okay, I ran up the back stairs 1 step at a time. Now, my brother had a 49 Chevy hardtop with a beautiful, beautiful dark green paint job with little tiny golden flakes in it and a white top that would hide the seagull poop. He had real wide white walls. I love white walls. They were so cool. But that wasn't what made the car. What made that car was pipes. He called them glass backs. Well, they're not glass, but they pack a lot of sound. And there was 2 of them that came out his back end of his car. When I get my car, I'm gonna have 4. I'm gonna have a little bit more noise. Now, I got up to my room and I'm going through my pile of clothes that I hung up on the floor looking, and I found my cleanest dirty t-shirt. I put it on and I rolled up my sleeve just 2 notches. That was cool. Then I found a pair of jeans. I put them on and I rolled the bottom pants up 3 folds. That was cooler. Now, I got to be honest with you. Cool, you can't be cool until you're 13. So I was pre-cool, but I was the coolest pre-cooler there was. I got all dressed and went down the stairs, and in the back porch, I put my shoes on, which were black and white, high top Converse. I went down and ran down the stairs and jumped in his car. I felt like I was in Rebel Without a Cause. There was James Stewart sitting right there, but my brother was cool. He had more grease slapped up beside his head. He had a DA. Oh, that's a duck's ass for you young kids. He went back like this and took his finger and put it down the middle there. That little duck's curve, you know, and then it curled up front. Wow. He made cool before cool. It was cool. He started that car up. It sounded like a grizzly bear had climbed up his tailpipes, and they weren't happy. I was shaking, I was shaking. He put it in first gear. I knew how to shift in my brain. I knew how. This is first gear down here. Then you go up, out, and up. That's second gear. Then you pop it on down. That's there, and you're moving. Now, if you miss something when you're driving, you put it in reverse and you back up and you look at it again. I'm not going to back up. I've seen it once. That's enough. That's a waste of gear. I mean, we could have other gear. We could have put fourth gear up there with reverses. But anyway, we took off down Nelson Street. Now, Nelson Street's a leveled street. It just goes like this. We didn't go very far, and we took a left down Star Hill. That's a steep hill, and he had that in first gear, and it was wrapping up all the way down. Now, there's a little park that the kids play in. They call it chicken yard. Every kid in that chicken yard ran up to the road and was waving and yelling and putting their hands up. They loved that noise. We got down to 6th Street. We started across. It was level. We didn't go very far because there's a big sign that says quiet hospital. So he was real quiet. We drove by the St. Anne's Hospital, where I spent a lot of time when I was a little boy there. In fact, it was just a year ago. I got 7 stitches right here from a rock fight we had, but I've grown up since then. Off we went, over a couple, down a couple, and over a couple more. Then we came to Sword Street, and that went downtown. That was one of the main streets in Juneau, and he put it in low gear again. And the people walking up, or the ladies were like this, the old men were like this, and we were like this. It looked like, I know they were thinking we were Elvis Presley and Buddy Holly. We were just come to town. I was pretty proud of myself. We kept on going. The windows were shaking a little bit, but that didn't bother us. We come to the stop sign, and, well, the pipes announced our arrivals. When we stopped there, you know, I've got to tell you, we only have one road in Juneau. It goes 28 miles off the road. It's called Out the Road. And at the very end is a dead end. It doesn't go anywhere. And everybody laughs because one of the government workers spent a couple of years and put a sign right there that said dead end. We've always wondered if that sign wasn't there, would people still try to drive through? We'll never know. Well, we can head back town. Now, one thing I did learn, you know, the driving is easy. Everybody remembers where the light dimmer is on the floor. You used your left foot, beep, beep, sight, beep, dark. And the turn blinkers are right here, bing, 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 bing. I knew all that. The shifting, I know. What was hard, and you have to know how to do this, is when my brother saw his friend coming here, he always had his shoulder like this, and he'd roll like this. And he'd see his friend, and slowly, not fast, like he had a 20-pound weight, his finger would come up like that. Now his friend coming the other way would go, they wouldn't smile, they wouldn't blink, and they drive each other. It was like two friends passing in the night, absolutely not saying a word, but the fingers saying it all. Now my dad, he drove with his whole body. You know, that's how he drove. And when he saw his friend, he nodded. You didn't know if he's going to sleep or waking up. And his friend did the same. Well, it was 2 friends passing in the night, and they were wondering if they left the light on in the bathroom. Now, my favorite were the girls. Oh, those girls. They'd see my brother and they'd start shaking, but they'd see him and they'd start like this, like they were cleaning the snow off the inside of their windshields. Boy, they were going crazy. They were jumping up and down, their head was bopping. It was like they hit a pothole full of happiness. They were always smiling. I watched them go by, and they were doing that as we went by. I'm just hoping there wasn't a telephone pole in their way. Would have been hard on that telephone pole. Well, we were on the flat part in Juneau, and we went around Sweeney's Bar, and we went by the red light district. Now, they took all the red lights out. My brother said they didn't work anymore. I don't know if he meant the red lights or the other thing. But we kept going. Now, this is South Franklin. So if we stayed on Franklin Street, it'd go up to 6 and we'd go home. But I said to my brother, let's go by Percy's. Percy's Cafe, every town has one where they make you cherry cokes, floats, fries, ketchup, gravy. All the kids hung out there. The 6-year-olds are like this. The 7-year-olds are like this. And the 8-year-olds are like this. Now, if you got up to be 13, you stood up by the sidewalk where the parking meters were, and they stood like this. They had a little cigarette package in their t-shirt, and they were like this. The girls, they were there too. They had scarves on, just like John Wayne did, and he wore a yellow ribbon. Remember that? But the scarf was turned around. It was in the back. They were cute girls. Well, we drove up there, and I look around here, I see a few young people. I'll show you a little trick I learned. I rolled down the window and put my elbow outside. Then I took fingers. That's all you need is 2 fingers. I slipped them by my stomach. And I pushed up my bicep. Those girls turned to jello. Oh my goodness. Well, in my brain they did, because all I had was a pimple at 10 years old, but you guys want to try it sometime. It's really cool. Well, we're headed home, so I decided to practice. So I put my hand on my lap and slowly lifted my finger. Now, I only had a 1 pound weight on my finger because it was a little finger, but I had to know how to do it. I kept practicing. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a license. I didn't even have a girlfriend. But I had a finger. And I was going to give it to nobody. Thank you.
Back to the 1950s.
Thank you, John. What a great story. And so you practiced for quite a while, right? Because you're only 10 years old, but in about 5 or 6 years, you're gonna do that just right,
You're
right?
doing that too fast.
Yeah. I haven't practiced it in a while, so you know. Great. So I think our next storyteller is Toby, who always has an interesting story for us, and I'm always surprised to hear what it is, but it's going to have a lot of action. I can promise you that. So, Toby.
Thanks, Dad. Am I okay, guys? Yeah. Okay. This story is part of a series I call Achikochi. Achikochi meaning here and there in Japanese. See, when I was growing up, I was all over the place. Here, there, and my uncle would say, there goes that Achikochi girl, that here and there girl. Well, and as it is, as I got older, joining the Peace Corps, becoming an international school teacher, I was Achikochi, here and there. So this is a story from the country of Indonesia. Indonesia consists of about 17,000 islands. It is hot and tropical and so full of rich culture. This is the story of Tutumu and the Raksasa. Tutumu was a young girl, and she and her mother, Emma, lived in the forest in a little hut. Every morning, Tutumu would get up, selamat pagi, Ma, good morning. And she would go to the well and bathe, wash her hair, and put it in a siput, which means snail in Indonesian, a little bun, and put a stick through it. And then she would go home, and her mother would have very meager food for them. Little bit of rice, some pickles, but mother would have this great big pot,
simmering with what's called bubor, rice porridge with sugar and coconut milk. And she would be stirring it. And oh, that aroma was just so, oh, it just got to her because she was so hungry. But it was not for her or for her mother. It was for the Raksasa, the giant. And if they did not appease the appetite of this giant, well, he would just gobble them up. This happened every morning. After the bubor porridge was cooked, she and her mother would go out to the forest and pick herbs, where her mother would then go off to sell to the market. So there was Emma with her basket full of herbs, and off she went to the market. And Tutuma, well, she played alone by herself outside, and then went back into the hut to brush and sweep the dirt floor, wash some of the dishes. And then she felt the earth vibrate. Boom, boom. And she knew the Raksasa was coming. And she dragged that great big pot of that rice porridge out the front door, closed the door, and locked it. And there that Raksasa giant came to the door. Oh, he was hungry. Eh? And he knocked on the door. Eh? Tutumu, dimana Tutumu? Where are you? I'm in the house. Di dalam rumah. Tutumu, mana ama? Where's your mother? Mother is at the pasar, the market. Tutumu, dimana bubur saya? Where is my porridge? Out in front. The giant, he looked and saw that pot. Ooh, it smelled so good. And there he had his hairy chest and his beard just full of dirt and insects. And his googly eyes just staring at his porridge. And he just drank it all as that stickiness just went down his chest. And he threw the pot into the garden, and off he stomped off. This happened every day. Well, weeks went by and food was sparse. And soon Tutumu and her mother, they were starving. And of course, Amat felt so bad because she couldn't sell any of the herbs at the market. But still, they had to make the porridge. And there was Amat stirring that pot. Okay, Tutumu, now you be good. I'm going to go to the market and see what I can do. Okay, Ma, up you go. Bye. She did her routine, sweeping the floor, washing the dishes, when she heard the earth vibrate. Ba-bum, ba-bum. Oh, it's the Raksasa. She quickly, just wait a minute. I am so hungry. She really tried to push that pot out, but I can feel the vibration, but it's still down, yeah? It's still far away. Just one spoonful won't hurt. That porridge just went so smoothly down to her tummy. One more. Well, one more became one more, became one more. And when she looked at the pot, it was nearly empty. And then now the vibration was very strong. Ba-ba, ba-ba, I'll drag this out, which she did. And she closed the door, locked it. And there was that Raksasa. Ha! Raksasa, yeah, quack, I am strong. Tutumu, where are you? Di mana rumah? I'm inside the house. Tutumu, where is your mother? Di ada di pasar. She's at the market. Tutumu, where is my porridge? Just out in the front. Giant looked around, and he picked up that pot. Huh? Why, it's almost empty. And he just threw the pot into the garden. Tutumu, and he took his fist and just whammed it right through that door. And here his giant hand is grabbing around. Tutumo is way far in the corner, protecting himself. But that giant, you are going to be my dinner, and grabbed her. Oh, Tulong, help! And he held her and swallowed her. One gulp. Ah, bagus sekali, enak, so delicious. And then bong, bong, bong. Oh, he stung. Ah. Now Tutumu is down in there swimming in all this liquid, and she says, what is this monkey head? Oh, what is, and she's, what am I going to do? Now Tutumu was very smart, a very smart girl. How am I going to save myself? Oh, the sipu, my bun, it has a stick. So she took it out and she started jabbing the inside of that raksasa, and the raksasa was walking along. What is it? It's big. Oh, I am hurt. This is, and he started wobbling around as he's going through the forest, and he tripped on a rock. And now he is a very, very big raksasa, and he swayed and blah, he hit his head on a tree, and there he laid on the ground. Now, meanwhile, Emma, mother, she is coming back home from the market, and she is so happy. Oh, today was a good day. I sold all my herbs, and you know what? I got Tutumu her very, very favorite kacang, peanuts. That's in this little cup here, and out of some fish. Oh, we are going to have a feast. And she is, eh? The house, the door is broken. Tutumo, di mana Tutumo? Where are you? And she is looking all over, and she realizes, it's that raksasa. And she grabs the parang, the machete, and she starts looking. Tutumo, di mana? There she sees that darno raksasa, but laying on the ground. Tutumo! But then she sees that the tummy of that giant is going in waves, as if something is pressing on that tummy. Tulong, help! But don't worry, I will help you. And mother took that parang, slid it open, and up, Tutumu. Oh, mother, just so. And they hugged each other, and the two of them went back home. And from that day on, they still made that great big pot of bubor, that rice porridge with all that sugar and coconut milk. Oh, and they ate it all themselves.
Thank you, Toby. I didn't realize we are gonna have actually a murder story tonight. There we go. That's a very good one. So Brett, looking up there, anybody in Zoom land, would you like to tell a story by any chance? How many people we have in Zoom, Brett?
We have 5.
5. Now, do any of you 5 up there wish to tell a story? We've got some time here. Kind of killing time. I'd like to hear a story. No, otherwise, might as well take a break.
Yeah, I have another one.
Okay, we're gonna,
Before break.
and then we'll take a break. Okay.
Thanks, guys, for letting me tell you this particular story.
I just recently read a book, and it was called The Sky Above Our Feet. And the story takes place in Malaysia during 1969. And when I read it, it brought back all these memories because I grew up in Malaysia. And Malaysia in 1957, it gained its independence from the British. And it's a country that has always politically had been a fine thread of a balance between 3 ethnic groups. The Indians who came there as laborers, The Malays were the indigenous folks, people, that were the farmers, agriculture. And then the Chinese who came over for business, mining tin. And through the years, everyone tolerated each other, but it was a thin line of tolerance. In 1969, I was in high school. I was 16 years old. And elections were held in that country. Now, the Malays held most of the seats in parliament. But during that election, there was a coalition political group that gained more seats in parliament than expected. And they were celebrating to the point where it just blew up and became more of a celebration. It became riots, race riots. And groups of the Malays or groups of the Chinese all got together and they would just raid certain communities. And there was a lot of killing and burning of buildings going on. So it was estimated about 600 people were killed in Kuala Lumpur during that time. So I was in high school, and I remember May 13, 1969, very, very clearly, because I was at home at night, and my father, who worked for the Malaysian government as a consultant at that time, said, Yusof, our driver, said, Tuan, jangan pergi di luar malam ini. Don't go out tonight. I didn't have anything to do. I didn't have student council meeting or anything. So we stayed at home. And then it was 8 o'clock at night. News came out about the riots. There was 24-hour curfew. The state of emergency was declared in that country, in that city anyway, in Kuala Lumpur. We could not go out of our home. And if we did, we could be shot by the police. That was the law at that time, emergency. Many people, of course, we were running out of food because we could not go out to the grocery store. Eventually, the curfew was lifted up so we could go out for a few hours to go to the market to buy flour and the necessary things. So my mom, who knew our neighbors so well, the Indians, Chinese, and the Malay neighbors, she started baking bread. And she would take the bread when the curfew was lifted, and she would go to the neighbors to give them bread. Then the neighbors, the women, they were just enamored with this bread baking, and then said, Lillian, could you show us how to bake this bread? And my mom said, of course, of course. So it was a time when the curfew was lifted, and she invited her friends to come. And before they came, Mom came to me, okay, Toby, we got to clear the dining room table. We have to get this and that and the flour and the yeast. I said, do we have to? Come on, Mom. I was in high school. I thought I knew everything. Do we have to? Yes. You're going to help me out. So I did. So the neighbors came and we were showing them about kneading the bread. What does that mean? And my mom would say, you need elbow grease to knead this bread. Elbow grease? What is that? So we were showing them. And as they were kneading the bread, conversation occurred. And the neighbor women started talking about their traditional celebrations. Oh, you know what we do? We celebrate Eid, Hari Raya. That is the Muslim New Year. Oh, what do you do, Shariba? Oh, well, we have all these coconut cakes and children come over. And then Su Chun said, oh, you know, Chinese New Year's in my home, why we dress in red, we have new clothes, we give out money packets. Oh, it's such a wonderful time. And then Parimala, who was Indian, she said, we have Deepavali, the festival of the lights. It is so festive in clothes and food. And so everyone started to share little bits about their family tradition. And when the bed was the bed was baked, and the friends went home, I was helping my mom clear up. And she said, Toby, I gotta tell you something. Okay, on what? Toby, your grandmother was interned during World War II in the United States, the Japanese internment camps. And she always told me the best way to find out about others is through conversation and just talking. And your grandmother said always, 子供のために. We do this for the sake of the children. And so mom said, your grandmother passed it on to me. Now I'm passing this on to you. This is a story I like to tell once in a while to my kids, because that whole idea of 子供のために, we do it for the sake of the children, as parents or as friends or aunties or uncles. I feel we all do this. 子供のために. Thank you.
Thank you, Toby. Comes to that old saying, breaking bread together brings people together. So, and I think in our old neighborhood, I think you actually went to some of the potlucks that we used to have up at the old Grange Hall in different places like that, or the school in the fall. Were always great to bring people together where they talk, and from all walks of life, although I think we're pretty much all from the same walk of life back then. But anyway, we had a great time. And I think after a 3-month hiatus, we welcome Maggie back, who is going to tell a story tonight. So welcome back, Maggie.
Well, I thought I would share this story about myself and my dad. So my dad passed away in November 20th. And I was home, and my sister and my 2 brothers, we were all there with him when he passed away. But we had 2 months with him before he passed. So we had lots of time to talk with him and have conversations and be together and make food and eat together and be together. But one night I was sitting talking with my dad, and I said, Dad, tell me a story. Now, my dad was a storyteller. He told family stories. And my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, was also a storyteller, but they just told family stories. But that's how I grew up, sitting around the kitchen table, listening to family stories. But I said to my dad, tell me the story of when I was born. And he just grinned, and he just starts laughing. And he said, okay. And then he starts telling me things I have heard through the years that he would tell about when I was born. And he said, well, now, and I was the first child. So he said, now, when your mother started, and he kind of moved around, like going into labor, we got in the car, and I'm driving her to the hospital. And he said it was dark, it was nighttime. And we get to the hospital, and for some reason, I decided it would be best to go park in the back of the hospital. That was my first mistake. That's what he said. And he said, we're in the back of the hospital, it's dark, it's night, and I'm walking your mother up to the building, and all the doors are locked. And so we're walking around this big hospital, trying all the doors, knocking on the windows, and they can't get in. Finally, he said, a janitor hears them, opens the door, lets him in, directs my dad which way to take my mom for labor and delivery, and which way he should go to sign her in. So he says, so we did that. I got your mom where she needed to be. And then he said, Now, your mother and your grandmother had told me all the things I was supposed to do, who I was supposed to call and everything. So I did everything I was supposed to do. I could just see his attitude about this. And then he said, now, the next day, I get on my uniform and go to the army base where he worked. And he said, I had my box of cigars because I had already purchased them in anticipation of your birth. And I go to my office and I go in and he says, all the army guys are there. He's offering a cigar to everybody. He said, there's all kinds of congratulations and jollification. And then he says, now his immediate boss says, now you need to go in and give a cigar to the upper boss. So he goes in to the big boss's office, says, his daughter was born, the officer gives him congratulations and reaches into the box of cigars, grabs a whole handful of them, thanks him, puts them in his drawer of his desk. And my dad's like, well, you can't say anything to the boss, so half of his cigars are gone. Anyway, that was my dad's story about my birth. And I'm listening to him laughing and thinking, I'm not really in the story. But that was my dad's story. And he just grinned. And it was just such a wonderful thing to have him tell me that story again. Thank you.
I'm sure you were a beautiful, delightful little baby. I'll say that for your dad since he's not here. So anyway, so I think, yes, Dick,
Is it open for telling stories?
if you'd like to tell a story, sure.
I haven't prepared anything, but
Let's
last
see.
time I was here, it was all scheduled.
Well, no, it's
But if you need people to tell stories, I could tell a short story to get us up to 7 o'clock.
sure. If you'd like to tell one, sure. You're welcome. We welcome storytellers.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I didn't know that, but it was only by invitation.
Oh, no, there's an open invitation.
Oh, okay. Well, as some of you know, I'm a Canadian, eh? Hey. So, and my,
Could you back up just a little bit?
oh, okay.
There we go. Thank you.
This is sort of a love story. Because, Canadians say, excuse me, pardon me, thank you, in there. And this is set back when my grandfather came up from Wyoming into the province of Alberta. Some of you may know where Calgary is, perhaps, and Banff and Jasper. So this was in the, about 1860. And of course, there was a big problem at that time, is wives. Many cowpunchers came up, could homestead land. The land would be, if they stayed 7 years and built up the land, they could homestead. So off they went, but there was, it was very good land. It was on the Battle River, and he wandered up and he bought his land and homesteaded it for 2 years. And got his buildings up and his cattle. He had, I guess I don't move, right? So he got his cattle. And he was very good. He was Scottish. He was a Scottish lad that came up. And they're very good in animal husbandry. So he had Suffolk sheep, Black Angus cattle, and grew oats and barley. So this was fine. The farm was going. He got hay up. But what was missing from this picture? A wife. Ah, yes, wouldn't that work better? And so in those days, there weren't any women about. Because they were all homesteaders. They had all come up. They were either fur trappers from the Hudson Bay Company, or they had retired, or but there was no women. So back down in Toronto, they called them the male brides. Now, that's MAIL, brides. So not as our current, whatever. And anyway, they're male brides. So they, and many Irish girls came out because the other half of me is Irish, actually. But anyway, they came out and they were often the servants at the mansions, and they worked in servitude for their passage. So back in Montreal and Toronto, they wrote letters. And so Grandpa said, well, I need a bride. I need a wife. So they take out ads in the paper. They say, oh, here we are. They describe, I have cattle and sheep and Berkshire hogs, and, I've been here and I have a house ready. And so they start corresponding, and it usually took about 2 years. And of course, there were no pictures. You didn't have any idea. So my grandmother, Grandma Bob, she's about, about your size, actually. So, and she wrote out, and they exchanged letters for about 1.5 years. So she was a little intrepid, oh my gosh, what is this? What is this? This guy, this is a fur trader mountain man that sort of started farming. I don't know what's going on. So after 2 years, he said, well, I will marry, will you come and marry me? And she debated. She was in the house. She was in servitude. She was working with children and cleaning silverware and whatnot in the big house. And she said, oh, I don't like this. I'm going on. So she got on the train. He sent down a ticket. And the train came out all across the prairies. It'd be equivalent to the North Dakota and Manitoba and Saskatchewan, and then up into Alberta, into Calgary. And then they went a little further up into the town of Trochu, out on the prairies where the farm was. And the train stopped. She was the only one that got off. And she looked around and looked around, and there was no one there. And then she sees this big, beautiful wagon coming down the road, all clean and brightly painted. It had two horses on it, 4 horses with it, all black and matched. And here comes her husband, all spiffed up, shaved, in his top coat with his tails and his hat. And he was so handsome. And he was about 6'2", actually. So she was so relieved. Oh, there's my husband. Oh, I thought he'd be bad or whatever. So she got over her dilemma of worry. I could have drawn that out a much longer on the train ride. But anyway, so moving along. So she got her bags out. She had, of course, those times there were big shipping carts, and he was so strong he could just pick up that, bang, put it right in the back of the Conestoga wagon. And the horses were muscling up and down. And she thought, wow, this is really great. He got farm, and he's got a herd, and he's got a house. So they were chitting. She jumped up in the buckboard, and they're going along. And they're going along the road, and the front horse rears up and disturbs and makes the cart go off the road. So he's out, and he's so strong he can move the wheels and get the cart back on, and gets the horse back in the traces, and he says, that's once. So off he went. They traveled along one of the road because it's about 25 miles along, and they came to this bridge. Well, we're coming up to the bridge, and a gopher ran across the road. A gopher's a little vermin that runs across. And that horse reared up again, got out of his traces. They stayed on the road that time. And he came out, and he got the horse back in his traces, and he said, that's 2. And she said, oh, good. How far is it? Well, it's about another 3 miles, so it's not too much further. So they're going along in this buckboard and the sun is going down. It's just beautiful. If you've seen Alberta, the mountains are in the back and all the white caps and so they're going around and they have to go up this little hairpin turn. And so the team is doing well, but that same horse reared up again. And Grandpa got out and shot him dead. Now Grandma spoke up and said, oh, but should you have shot that horse? And he looked over and said, that's one.
Well, you're here, so she must not have hit number 2 or number 3, right?
Yeah, well, they had 9 kids, actually.
Yeah. She was afraid to say anything, I'm sure. That's once. There you go. Okay, so we're gonna take a break here and hopefully our featured teller will find the Harbor House. But why don't we take about a 5 or 10 minute break, okay? And I'll ring the bell when we're ready to start up again. And we'll have a few commercial announcements. And if nothing else, we'll go ahead and break at that point, okay? So talk amongst yourself and have a good time.
That's a question, me.
Did you? And.
We'll let you. But he's not here, so our apologies for that. But you know what? Pardon me?
Did you know he's talking to Maggie?
Yes, I do know. That's why, yeah. That's okay. That's why I'm saying it.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't know if he's important interest or worries, but I know he's not here, so we're just gonna wrap it up. But what a great time we had anyway. So Regina, thank you for being our featured teller tonight and telling us about the success and your mom is happy and everything. Everything's great. John, Star Hill Gang strikes again, and I don't know when you're gonna write out stories about that because you sure had an exciting childhood. Let's see, Toby, thanks for your giant story again, and also about the sky above our feet, the Malaysian riots. And Maggie, thank you for coming back and telling stories. We're glad to see you back here again. And Dick, stories from Canada, I love them, and we want to hear more of stories from you too. So just as a reminder, nobody needs to be signed up for storytelling. If you want to send me, anybody ever wants to send me an email and say, I'm going to be telling this, great, but otherwise you can pull it right out of your hat and tell us.
So we should prep something.
Well, that's always good, but you don't need to. So if you've got a story to tell, we're here to listen. And thank you all for listening, and for the people on Zoom, thank you for being patient with us. And that wraps it up for tonight. I think we've got any other announcements. Let me check here real quick. First of all, thank you, everybody. And we'll meet again Wednesday, the 11th of February. Jerry Bundell and Sandra Nyman will be telling about Tales of the Heart for the opening and featured tales. So Tales of the Heart. Some of them are going to be pretty darn spooky. Story Oli, just to remind you, the third Tuesdays of the month. This month it'll be January 20th over at the Brotherhood Tavern, which is great. Elizabeth Lord, one of our members, is over there. She runs that, and it's a very popular event. Starts at 7 o'clock. Show a little early if you want to see. And workshops, Maggie sends. Pardon me?
What's the stop?
Passive aggressive. Yeah. And then some workshops. Read Maggie's emails always because she's got a lot of information. Story work, which is a time when you can get together and tell a story, and you can get some feedback on the story if you're developing one.
This coming Monday.
Monday, the 19th. And look at Maggie's email about that. And let's see, I think that's it. Donations are always welcome to keep the lights on here. We appreciate that. And with that, anybody got anything else to add or ask?
Thank you, Stan.